this once. And I want to
subscribe.
Car D Kaizoku.
If I was a baker, I'd have a pastry on. It's tier list time again, this time for OP04. I know this is coming out way later than everyone else's tier list, but I really didn't want to put anything out before they announced whether the restricted list would be staying in OP04 or not. And also not without any early tournament results with the restricted list in effect. Otherwise, a lot of the tier placements could be off. I'm also one of the few One Piece card game content creators who can say they've actually played a majority of the leaders on the list, with the video proof to back it up. With that being said, let's break down how our tier list is separated this time. So S tier are the top meta decks that have almost no unfavorable matchups. A tier decks are meta decks that have many favorable matchups and mostly only struggle against the S tier decks. B tier are decks that can still place, but their matchup spread is more swingy. They're good into some S and A tier decks, but struggle against others. Your placements with these leaders will depend heavily on predicting the leader pool at an event. C tier decks are decks that lose a lot to decks in S through A, but can hold their own against B tier decks. D tier decks are at least playable, and F tier decks are just plain out unwinnable. The orders within the tiers do not matter because you do have to take into account the matchup spreads of the leaders, so I'm basing it off average performance. So let's talk about the S tier. This tier is probably nothing too different from OP03. So Zoro can still keep up with Whitebeard and Law. Things do get a little harder for him in OP04 though. Green Purple Doflamingo and Blue Yellow Queen are new leaders that do really well into Zoro. Yellow Katakuri gets a big boost in OP04 that allows them to have more consistent outcomes against Zoro. If these leaders weren't being put in check by the other leaders in the top meta, Zoro may have dropped significantly. Whitebeard is still Whitebeard. That natural 6k stat line will keep him in S tier no matter what, until the power level of the new leaders go way up in OP05. But I also feel like everyone who's been playing since OP02 knows exactly how to play against Whitebeard by now, so it's just a matter of if the Whitebeard player gets decent draws or not. It is pretty hard now to catch any stray wins from anyone inexperienced with the Whitebeard matchup. Law sees a significant rise in this set due to Zoro being put in check by Doflamingo, Queen, and Katakuri. The amount of Fire Fist Zoros that used to be in the pool in OP03 kept Laws from making it into top cuts. I see Katakuri as a very popular leader at the moment too, and Law does quite well into him. Katakuri, as I mentioned, is seeing a lot of play. This may just be due to him being quite easy to play while still being a strong deck. While OP04 gave Katakuri many new consistent tools to win games, it does still feel like it comes down to trigger RNG sometimes. So you'll see a lot of less skilled Katakuris make it to higher seeds based off of a couple RNG wins, and then they'll just get destroyed by a Law that knows what they're doing in the later rounds. Moving on to the A tier, Film Kid I feel is a sleeper deck. A lot of people just assumed Green Purple Doflamingo would be the better film deck, but you need to put a lot of value into Kid being a wallbuster. Doflamingo is a turtle deck, but so is literally half the other top meta decks at the moment. This is where Kid slots in. Kid is great at burning counters from hand and threatening lethal at 1 life, being able to just mow down a lot of these slow turtle decks. He still does have trouble against Zoro and Whitebeard as he always has, which is keeping him from being any higher, but he does quite well into Law and Katakuri. Green Purple Doflamingo is the highest defense deck here. Any deck that can't remove Nami or Tesoro without attacking them will struggle immensely. This means Doflamingo has good matchups against Whitebeard, Law, and Katakuri. The Zoro matchup feels 50-50 depending on if they run Gordon, Marco, and Fire Fist and are able to find the combo pieces early enough. Rebecca is probably one of the hardest leaders to master, perhaps even harder to play than Law. It plays nothing like any other deck in the meta. The only thing keeping Rebecca from being in S is how popular Katakuri is at the moment. If Katakuri's play rate goes down, we'll see Rebecca rise as she's good into every other deck in S. Crocodile also got a big boost in OP04 thanks to Red Rock and Sasaki. People will still debate whether the Sentomaru or Animal Kingdom Pirates package is the best for Croc, but the Sentomaru version has been the one that's been placing highly. Queen gets to run all the new tools in blue and yellow. Queen is also quite an RNG heavy deck. It is impossible for a slow deck to finish off a Queen. The only way to deal with Queen is to take them out before they can set up, but with a few favorable early triggers, even the most aggressive decks can be stalled long enough for you to stabilize and set up your late game infinite heals. So it does come down to your triggers in the end. Next up is the B tier. Blue Purple Kaido is a lot stronger than people think. I think a lot of people are just refusing to adapt into the meta. I think the ulti page 1 combo is necessary for the deck. It puts immense pressure on Whitebeard and Law, not allowing them to hoard counters in hand. It gives you more bodies to attack back into Zoro weenies, and they both have counters, so they're never dead cards in hand. 9 cost Kaido being able to KO 6 cost characters is extremely relevant in this meta. 10 cost Kaido works great as a reset button as well. The only thing holding him back is his reliance on Onigashima. Ace does better in the slower meta, which is what Rebecca, Queen, Katakuri, and Green Purple Doflamingo have done. Blue Doflamingo will always be relevant in metas where Zoro and Whitebeard are top tier, but that makes his performance really matchup dependent. Purple Yellow Crocodile actually has decently even matchups against the rest of the top meta, but he does lose out pretty heavily to Law. But surprisingly, he feels 50-50 against every other leader, so whether that's a good or bad thing is up to you. Mono Yellow Big Mom gets the same benefits as Katakuri from OP04, but Katakuri's leader ability is just way better. If you're focused on competitive play, nothing in the tiers below will matter. In the spirit of keeping it real with you guys, I'll go over them anyways because longer videos pay better. But unfortunately for me, I also still actually like my subscribers and viewers, so I'll keep it brief and rapid fire through these so that it doesn't take up too much more time. In the C tier, I know a lot of people would put Nami higher. Maybe I've never faced a good Nami, but I never seem to have any trouble facing one once you figure out that all you have to do is not let them land a Zeph hit and you win. I get this comment a lot where people will say, how can you say she's bad when she lost with 3 cards left in the deck? It was really close. But I don't understand this line of thinking. That's just what her deck does. Do you also think any deck is strong against Whitebeard because you can get him to 0 life? You can say she only had X cards left in the deck all you want, but that X rarely ever seems to be 0. Odin loses to the top meta, but he's pretty strong amongst the other off meta decks. Same with Magellan. He'll get turbo boosted with starter deck 10 though. Z is in the same boat with purple. Smoker and Lucci haven't gotten any love in OP04, so they've fallen out of grace. Kuro gets a small amount of support in OP04, but the Film Kid just pretty much overshadows him. Arlong still feels like a for fun deck. Black Yellow Big Mom is just worse queen. Luffy is a red deck with no identity. Yamato does a little better into aggro decks, but Katakuri just has a better card pool and leader ability. In the D tier, Black Luffy plays like a removal heavy combo meme deck. Isho just doesn't have the card pool to support his leader ability. I do see potential for him if they ever print more support for 5 cost green characters. Blue Purple Crocodile's leader ability is not worth being at 4 life. King's leader ability has anti-synergy with a lot of good purple cards. Kinemon hasn't gotten any support for 2 sets. Kaido hasn't gotten any support for 3 sets. In the E tier, Red-Green Luffy's leader ability is clunky to use. Kid can double swing without needing a specific character type on board, and he has 1 more life even. Garp's color combination does not synergize with his leader ability. The red adds nothing while taking 1 life away from him. Sanji's leader ability does not close the gap in value you get between playing vanillas versus cards with effects, but at least this leader helps us quantify that gap a little bit. Ivankov has a hard time in a meta that doesn't rely on 4 costs. Iceberg's new option in OP04 don't save his deck. I do feel like it's possible to make them work though, but they're not printing the right cards to do it. With Purple Luffy and Red Purple Law and OP05 taking up the purple slots, we may not see this happen for a while. Vivi just feels like worse Rebecca. Corrida Coliseum provides Rush as a 1-cost stage card. Rebecca's draw only costs 1 Dawn. I feel like the Alabasta cards needed a few cards that gained extra effects when they gained Rush or something. Uta's leader ability is similar to Sanji's. 2 Dawn of value is just not worth running vanillas over effect cards. Shanks is only limited by his color. If he was green-purple, he'd be amazing actually, but he only has access to the purple film cards which do not really synergize with his leader ability. Sakazuki's leader ability is so clunky to use, it's as if he doesn't have a leader ability at all. So that's my leader tier list for OP04. Again, I've literally done videos on the majority of the top meta leaders you see here, so this is my impression now after having actually played through them. So what are your thoughts? If you have any insights or opinions, let me know in the comments below. I'm still a small enough channel where I do actually read every single comment. And then Starter Deck 10 will release next month and change this up a bit, so expect to see an updated list after that. Okay, bye.
Card D Kaizoku.